Hello, everyone. My name is Hyunjae. I'm a professor at Sogang University School of Communication, and it's my pleasure to be a moderator for this session. I would like to welcome you all to this panel discussion session titled Global Citizenship Education for Media and Information Literacy. This session will address what kind of education is necessary for critical literacy for democratic communication and participatory digital citizenship and effective empowerment. As fake news and hate speech are much more prevalent in the time of this pandemic crisis, critical media and information literacy has become a very essential competency for the people in the 21st century like us, right? In this session, we will have two wonderful segments, a presentation on digital citizenship education, and then we will move on to a mini workshop on teaching learning tools for media information literacy. So let me introduce our first speaker, wonderful, right? So Kelly Mendoza, Dr. Kelly Mendoza is a Senior Director of Education Programs at Common Sense Education, which is a nonprofit organization empowering the next generation of digital citizens. She has experience developing research-based curricula in digital citizenship, media literacy, information literacy, and social emotional learning. Today, she will give us a presentation on key concepts of media information literacy entitled Digital Citizenship Education for Global Citizens. Please welcome Dr. Kelly Mendoza.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Digital Citizenship Education for Global Citizens. Thank you so much to the 5th International Conference on Global Citizenship Education for inviting me to speak today. My name is Dr. Kelly Mendoza, and I am Senior Director of Education Programs at Common Sense Education. Common Sense is a nonprofit or NGO based in the United States, and you can see our website right there. What I'm going to ask and talk about today is how do we teach global citizens through a concept, what we call digital citizenship. It's a concept that we have resources and lessons and curriculum around, so I'm going to focus on that today. So you may have heard of this term digital citizenship. It is definitely more broadly recognized in the United States with teachers and schools and parents, but it means that you're able to think critically about the opportunities and challenges of the digital world and use technology responsibly to learn, create, and participate. And we see digital citizenship as really essential for global citizenship. It is an essential set of skills and habits of mind. So I want to take a step back and look at and think about news in particular, because we're talking about media and information literacy and how young people are getting the news and how this can impact their ability to be a digital global citizen. We know that increasingly young people are getting their news from social media. So this is going to be a lot of United States research that I'm sharing here, but we've seen a definite trend in the past 5 years or 3 years here around getting news from YouTube or from Facebook or Instagram, for instance. And you'll also see this as well, this trend with the younger age group, 18 to 29-year-olds. So the whole receiving your news from televised news or even the newspaper is long gone. Social media is where people get the news. Now, why is this a problem for digital citizenship or for global citizenship? Well, at least here in the United States, we have a lot of issues around this shift of the social media providers not really seeing themselves as news organizations. They're just distributors of the news or of other kinds of content. And so it's a mix of some reliable news producers and journalists, trained journalists, and then a lot of other voices in the mix, independent news producers who maybe are not trained journalists, who are biased and who have perspectives where they maybe cover topics negatively. They may be spreading conspiracy theories, which YouTube in particular has had problems with conspiracy theory. And so if you think about young people getting information, we want them to be informed and educated in this world. We really do need to teach what we call digital citizenship, in addition to the news and media literacy, is part of that set of skills. Now, it's not that young people are not engaged in political issues. They're highly engaged and interested. But the news and media landscape that they're in is completely dysfunctional and confusing. So, however, we do see them, young people, mobilizing on social media platforms to try to make change. In the United States, we've had a huge uprising over police brutality and anti-racism around Black Lives Matter. Climate change is a huge issue. I'm in California, and we've had the worst fires here that we've ever had in history related to climate change. And then March for Our Lives has to do with and gun violence and creating awareness around that. So young people are using these platforms to mobilize. That's what we want. We want young people to create change, but they're also in this environment where there's a lot of misinformation and clutter going on in terms of what's reliable and not reliable information that is spreading things like hate speech and xenophobia. We also know that young people will be voting and that that population will be increasing in the future. So if you look on the very bottom line, Generation Z, born after 1996, they will become the next generation of voters. So we want that next generation of voters to be engaged, to be educated, to have the right information about the issues that they need to be concerned about. And yet we know that people's media literacy skills, especially young people and older people, are often lacking. So much of the research shows that high school students, which is secondary students, are not prepared to judge the credibility of information they find on the internet. And this is very worrisome. And there's a lot of educational interventions out there really helping young people to be discerners of news and information. But there's no, I see a lot of different models, and we teach these skills as well. And we hear from teachers that this is one of their number one concerns. In addition, we've seen a rise in misinformation and just flat out conspiracy theories. This is just a recent article from the New York Times showing that young people are more likely to believe misinformation about the coronavirus, for instance. And you can see some examples there. But why might they be believing this misinformation? It's because they're getting their news from social media. It's not always reliable. And so, part of this teaching a global citizen is digital citizenship. I mean, this is part of being an engaged global citizen. And so what I'm going to go into next is a lot of resources and things that we've been doing over the past 10 years at Common Sense around this topic and around this set of digital citizenship education for young people. So we offer free lesson plans and videos and teacher support around a lot of these issues for equivalent of kindergarten through 12th grade, whatever that equivalent primary and secondary grades, which includes things like worksheets and videos and family engagement pieces to teach students these skills to be ready and equipped to be a citizen in the digital world. And we've had really, really great response. So thanks to our philanthropic funders, we're able to provide these resources for free. We have over 1 million registered educators, mostly US-based, but worldwide as well, to use and teach these set of skills to students. So our first approach is that, teaching global and digital citizenship is a wide range of skills and behaviors. It's not just around, being media literate and, being a critical news consumer. It has to do also with how we communicate with others online, for instance. With cyberbullying and hate speech, we're hearing a major increase of problems, especially with online hate speech. This is something that, how do we communicate and treat each other in the digital world? How do we keep our information private, or how are we responsible for the private information of others? So you can see it's a broad set of topics here that we address. A lot of people think digital citizenship is internet safety. It's much more beyond that. It's getting students prepared to participate as citizens in the digital world. Our second approach is what we call, and you probably saw this on the cover slide, Rings of Responsibility framework. So we have activities and videos and our lesson plans that teach students to understand that they have a responsibility not only for their own actions, but also for their community, their friends and family and teachers and peers in school, but also the broader digital world of people that they may not know personally, that you have a responsibility for your actions and the impact on other people. And so in our lessons, and when we talk about these topics, we talk about personal responsibility for others. And so we use this great framework, and it's helpful for students to think about, you know, in different scenarios and dilemmas that they may face in the digital world. Do they have a responsibility for themselves? How might that play out to have a responsibility for others? And then the third approach, and I'm going a little quickly here, but this is kind of the core pedagogical approach, is what we call dispositions around digital citizenship. A disposition is a habit of mind. It is something that you want to instill in students so that when they have to make a decision or when they're faced with a dilemma in their digital world, that they have a set of dispositions to draw from and in order to make decisions. So slowing down is something that's difficult to do in the digital world. Everything's so quick and fast paced and wants your attention right away. So we have techniques to help students slow down before they actually act and do something that they may regret later, or that so there's slowing down techniques. Seeking facts and evidence is part of our news and media literacy strand of how do you find credible information online, and how do you get the facts and evidence for making a good decision in your digital life. And then also considering other perspectives is huge, because if we don't understand other people's perspectives and really try to understand where other people are coming from, then you know, we're just lacking understanding and openness of others and their life experience. So that, you know, understanding, and that's part of anti-racism education as well, is considering other perspectives, and then also envisioning options and taking action, like really thinking through what might happen if you take a certain behavior or take a certain stance, and helping students come up with practical strategies that they can use in their digital lives. So we worked with the Project Zero at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, who does research on youth and digital media on creating these dispositions. We have a lot of different activities in our lessons that do this. Now, one huge connection here to make is that the dispositions around digital citizenship are really connected with what's called social emotional learning. This framework on the left that you're seeing is pretty common in the United States, at least. It's for social emotional learning, which is being taught in schools around relationships, building healthy relationships, making responsible decisions, managing your behavior and your own behavior, social awareness, and your self-awareness. So these are all part and parcel, part of digital citizenship and what we want to see in our global citizens. So just to give you a couple examples of things that we've created that teachers really love. So for the younger students, we have a whole set of characters that teach these kinds of citizenship skills. And so we use a lot of video and song, and we have these 6 characters that represent the 6 topics that I presented earlier. And it is never too early to start teaching young people how they should be and how to interact in the digital world, because they are on their devices from very, very young ages. And so we have this really fun set of characters around helping think about this when you're, you know, even in the very early stages. For the older grades, for older students, secondary students, for instance, we get more deeply into topics related to bullying, hate speech, news literacy topics, as I mentioned. So I'm just showing you an example of a lesson in which students are exploring hate speech and how hate speech happens online. So in this particular lesson, we have a great video of students talking about hate speech. What does it mean to them? Where have they seen it? How have they been impacted by it? Because hate speech online is different than when it happens face to face. And so students are exploring hate speech, extremism, which can really run rampant online. And they're exploring how the internet can really increase and spread these hateful extremist views. Now, what I like about this lesson is, in the end, they're coming up with very practical ways to combat or to address hate speech that they may see when they're online. You know, what would they do? We want young people to take action as global digital citizens to not tolerate this kind of behavior and create the kind of online world that we all want to live in. And so here's just some examples of practical advice and practical takeaways that we want young people to have, so that, again, when they're participating, that they know that if they see hate speech online, they can maybe stand up for the person being targeted if they feel safe in doing so. Or maybe they can report it to the site or the app provider. Or maybe they can share kindness in other ways about the person or group being targeted. And these are all examples from students, by the way. We don't give them the answer. They come up with it themselves, so that when they're faced with those dilemmas in their digital lives, they have something to do. They know what to do, and they know the right thing to do. So that's just a really brief example of how we've addressed those things. Now, bringing it all together, for global citizens, what I'm trying to get across in this short presentation is that it's a combination of information literacy and media and information literacy, of the news literacy skills, finding credible news sources, identifying misinformation and disinformation, being cautious of conspiracy theories, and then also the social emotional literacy, which is being, anti-racist or learning anti-racist and being educated in schools around things like that, being empathetic, learning how to listen to others, and how to have dialogue, difficult dialogue, and then also having a responsibility for not only your own behavior, but how it impacts others. And so these things, I think, work together. And so I wanted to bring that all together in the end, and that's kind of how we see the need for global citizens, is this whole set of skills and dispositions. So I will leave it at that, and I want to direct you to our website. We have free resources for schools, and hope that you can check them out. I hope this produces some great discussion today at the conference, and that you are all exploring these issues together. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Mendoza. As she mentioned in her lecture, we've seen the rise of hate speech and fake news in times of the pandemic era, and the concept of media information literacy is way more important than ever. With such a flow of contradictory information, how can you teach our younger generations to define their own ways to react and act upon when facing hate speech and fake news? I think this is very, very critical issue that we have in common all over the world. And Dr. Mendoza provided a lot of great insights for that in her lecture, I'm sure. All right, let's move on to the next segment, another wonderful mini workshop. Fabrice TEICHER, our next presenter, will offer a mini workshop entitled Becoming Actors of Our Relation to Information. Of course, due to the online platform we are using right now, we won't be able to engage in direct interaction between the audience and the speaker. But I am sure that you will find this mini workshop very, very interesting, right? So let me just introduce Fabrice TEICHER, our teacher. Is a media information literacy expert. He has worked with many professionals and international organizations. He worked on a lot of programs in various settings, including prisons and schools and other occasions. His session today will help us find the positive ways to tackle down hate speech and fake news. All right, let's welcome Mr. Fabrice TEICHER. Is it my pronunciation right? All right. Hello. All right. All right. So it's all yours. So would you please just start your mini workshop? All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Yu. Well, actually, we'll try to interact with the audience and see how we can do it. So thank you for inviting me, and good morning to everybody, or good evening, depending on your time zone. As you said, in this session, we will try to explore firsthand the functioning of internet and how we can counteract or react to the rise of fake news and hate speech during this COVID crisis. Now, I will try to ask you questions through a quiz. I will ask you also to do some researches online on your smartphone, and I will also show you some tools. Now, we can all agree that we all live in an era in which we receive too many information, too much information every day, all day, on TV, on our social network account, to the point that some people talk about infobesity. For instance, you can have a look at this graphic here that shows all the data, all the information exchanged every minute of the day on the internet. For instance, you can see here that 150,000 messages are shared on Facebook every minute, that almost 400,000 stories are shared on Instagram, although more than 41 million messages are shared on WhatsApp every minute of the day on the internet. All this information, we receive it every day, all day, and we sometimes share it without having the time, the means, or the tools to verify it. That's why it is very important when you go online to have these 3 rules always in mind. Now, the first rule of a safe digital use on the internet is that everything you put on social media can be seen by everybody. You can try to be as anonymous as you want. You can make a private account. You can never prevent a friend from sharing the content you share with them. I will show you now a video that will make you reflect on this topic about how information can be reused. So let me move back to the video.
Hot chocolate.
What's the name?
Joelle.
What was the name?
Alex.
Alex. There you go, Johnny.
If you like our Facebook page, we give you a free hot drink and a free pastry.
We have a new like for Damien. We have a new like for Damien.
Hey, Carly, are you standing by?
Standing by.
Hi there, can I help?
Yeah, I just liked your Facebook page.
Okay, I'll search Facebook now. I'll search from Google. Have a phone number.
I've got his email address.
Okay, Carly, are you ready for information on Damien?
Yep, I am.
Mother's maiden name is. He banks with.
Hey, Carly, this is the girl coming in now with the blue scarf.
What's the name? Nicholas.
Nicholas. His date of birth, 7th of May. She lived at 38A.
Just be a couple of seconds.
2 children, age 8. Previous address. She's got 3 phones.
Yep, got it. Damien, age 26 and a fitness instructor.
How do you know that?
Brody goes to UCL. Martin went to South Thames College. Assistant psychologist at Great Ormond Street.
I don't understand.
Oh, funny.
You know I'm a Christian as well.
Oh, yeah, we know everything about you, Martin. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Anna from Russia.
So this is an advertisement for a company insurance, and it is one of the many examples of all the images that can be found online about you and how they can be used sometimes against you. So the first rule is that everything you put on social media can be seen by everybody. The second rule is that everything you put on the internet can never be totally erased. Once again, you can never prevent someone from sharing, making screenshots. And everything you can do as a matter of prevention by thinking before posting element will be much, much more effective than one you can try to do in reaction to try to remove things on the internet. This is particularly true and problematic for teenagers who don't always think long-term when they post private information or private image. And when they go look for their first job, or when they have broken up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, this image can come back and trouble them. And the last rule that is very important to always have in mind is that you can never be sure of who you are talking to. People can change their picture, people can change their email address, their social account, their profile picture, their IP address, their GPS location. People can change everything, as you can see on this video that I will also show you right now. Sorry.
This is a PSA. You can't believe anything you see these days. These glasses aren't even real. Neither is my face. All this stuff was 3D tracked on using these dots that I drew on with this marker. Actually, the marker isn't real either. Neither is the background, or my face. Have a good night.
So, as you can see, everything can be faked, everything can be changed. Now, oops, sorry. So, let me go back to the presentation. So with that in mind, it's important to have in mind that all these elements have taken even more importance in this time of COVID crisis, where fake news and hate speeches have spread online. The COVID crisis has often brought the worst and the best in everyone. Now, the best are all the acts of solidarity, mostly local, that came all around the world. Like, for instance, the valorization of first-line heroes, such as nurses and doctors acclaimed all around the world, or various crowdfunding to distribute food to families in need, or the connection between neighbors willing to help and people needing help. Now, the worst that we all have seen also are the rise of hate speech and aggressivity. Anti-Asian prejudice have been very strong at the beginning of the crisis. And now with the second wave of COVID all around Europe, it is also followed by a second wave of anti-Asian prejudice, either accusing Chinese to having deliberately created or spread the virus, or assimilating all Asian people to Chinese. Anti-Semitism is not a recent phenomenon, but with every wave of anti-Semitism, it recycles all those prejudice and hate speech and images. Here are three very eloquent elements. Here you can see this American cartoon that updates the association of Jews to race and the accusation of Jews spreading diseases such as the plague in the Middle Ages. Or you have this image that is an old representation from the Middle Ages of Jews accusing of poisoning wells. And here you can see the exact same representation with the French Ministry of Health, Agnès Buzyn, who is Jewish, and who is put in the same representation with the spread of the virus. More recently, with the use of the internet, you have this anti-Semitic meme, that is a viral image, called the Happy Merchant, that has been created by white supremacists in 2004, and that can be seen reused time and time again, and here also with the representation of French Ministry of Health, Agnès Buzyn. In some part of the world, anti-Muslim prejudice have also been on the rise with the COVID crisis. In India, for instance, the hashtag Corona Jihad makes a direct link between terrorist bombing in the name of Islam and the spreading of the virus, accused Muslim of voluntarily spreading it. And you can see these very eloquent images that want to say that the collective prayer are a way of spreading the virus. Now, a lot of fake news and old videos have also been recycled and used that directly sparked real violence and physical aggression toward the Muslim community. Mainly in Europe, but also all around the world, we can see anti-immigration prejudice. We can see expression of fear and or hate against migrant population accused of spreading the virus. And with the closing of many borders and the restriction to travels, we can see that countries are withdrawing and turning more and more inward. Now, all this anxiety coming from the virus and from the restriction that follows, such as the lockdowns, make people more stressed and more aggressive. And all around the world, we could see reports of violence occurred. In United States, a security guard was killed for asking someone to put a mask. In France, the same thing occurred also to a bus driver. Finally, and not surprisingly, conspiracy theories flourish, especially online. The phenomenon is not new at all, and viruses are a good opportunity for these theories to spread online, as we have seen during the swine flu crisis in 2005, for instance. These theories are particularly favored by internet and fear, two elements that we don't like right now, and with lockdown all around the world, people spend a lot of time on their screen. Now, with such a flow of contradictory information, mostly stressful, how do we make our opinion? How can we know if things are true or false? What do we share with our friend? To be able to answer this question, I suggest an exercise to see how we can try to deconstruct or to react to this fake information. I will show you 5 images, one after the other. Some are true and some are fake. And I will lay floor now to GCED team that will share with you an online quiz. So you can all go, I don't see it clearly, but you must see better than me on your screen. You can take your mobile phone and go to the website www.menti.com and type in the code. And with this code, you can answer the first question. So, okay, I can see it clearly now. Thank you. So the first image I show you here is a post on Facebook from Filipino saying China is now so big with the hashtag coronavirus. This post on Facebook was shared more than 6,000 times. So I ask you, if you think that this is really an image of people dying from coronavirus in China, you can answer true. If you think it's not, you can answer false. So let's wait for everybody to answer. Okay, so maybe people can continue to answer, and when the answers will stop moving, we'll move on. So far, 5 people think it's true, 51 think it's false. Yes, less suspense than the American election, but still the number are moving. Okay. And don't be influenced by the other answers. Make your own opinion. Okay. Okay. So I suggest we move to the next image, and you can wait for the answers before showing the result. Now, this is an article about a new line of bendable devices that will be presented by Apple very soon. So take your time, have a look at the image. And if you think it's fake news, you type false. If you think it's true, you press number 1. So you don't hesitate to zoom in to look at all the details in the article that can give you elements. Okay, so we can look at the results. So image 1, 66. Okay, oh, it's like the more numbers are continuing to rise. Maybe some people have information that others don't have. Okay. So thank you. We will look at the next image, please. So a breaking news tells us that cocaine kills coronavirus, and that scientists is shocked to discover that this drug can fight the virus. It's a breaking news. Is it fake breaking news or a true news? You can type it on your smartphone. Okay, we can have a look at the result, please. Now, 124, 5 people think it's false, 5 think it's true. Be careful, there are some tricks in this quiz. We can have a look at the next image, please. Now, this is an article from Natural News magazine saying that Bill Gates reportedly offered a $10 million bribe to use Nigerian children in coronavirus vaccine experiments. Is it a fake news or real news? This article has been shared more than 13,000 times. Okay, we will wait a little when the numbers are not moving anymore. You can look at all the elements of the article to help you. Okay, we can have a look at the result. 128 people think it's false and 30 people think it is true. Now let's have a look at the last image. It is an article saying that schools ban children from singing happy birthday and for fear of spreading coronavirus fear in England schools. Do you think it is a fake news or a real news? So maybe we can see from the time it takes to answer that some are most difficult, and it will be interesting to debrief on what are the most difficult or the most easy information to check. So let's wait a little more. Okay, the numbers are not much more moving, so we can have a look at the result, please. Oh, what a suspense. So it's almost 50-50. We have 73. Okay, let's wait a little more to see if it changes. Both answers seem to be rising at the same level, so we have almost half people thinking it's true and half people thinking it's false. Okay. So thank you very much for your participation in this quiz. Now, we can debate all we want. And we can debate all day on each of these images, and we will never know for sure who is right and who is wrong. But the images I've just shown you are some of the very typical images that all of us, we receive all day, every day on the internet, and we never really pay attention to them. Like maybe 1 or 2 seconds before our mind considers them automatically as true or false, before forgetting them, or even before sharing them. So I think it is very important to sometimes take a moment like we just did and try to ask ourselves the question, why do I believe more to some information than other? What makes us more believe in some specific information? Most of the time, it is because we know the topic or because we have heard about the story. But most of the time, we believe information when they are coherent, when they fit our view of the world. For example, if I don't like someone and I am told that he did bad things, I will have a tendency to believe it. I have a tendency to believe it. And the opposite, if I like someone and I am told he did something bad, I will want to verify it. It's natural. We all do this. But this trend can lead us very far. And this phenomenon, we can see it every day on the internet, targeting pop stars, political leaders, or communities. And it is particularly the case when with racist acts based on prejudice. So what can be done? First of all, Now, that is why the first element that is the most important I wanted to share with you, the first reflex that we all should have online is to check for the source. Who gives us the information? Where does it come from? The problem with the internet is that we often receive information that we don't know where they come from. So I will now give you the answer to the 5 images and show you how we can check information with some tools. The first picture, a large majority of you said it was fake. Now, as I've said earlier, it doesn't seem coherent with what we know of the virus, but is it true or is it false? Can we check the source? Now, the source is a post from Facebook from someone from Philippines. If we go see the account, we don't learn much more about him, and we have to speak Filipino. But there is another tool that I want to share with you. This is reverse search image with 2 websites very useful for you, Google Images, and another one is TEICHER. This is a reverse image search website. When you find an image, you don't know where it comes from, you can put it on this website and it will give you all the occurrences of this image on the web that you can sort from the most recent to the oldest being often the original one, and from the most resembling to the most changed. This is very useful in this time, and I will show you two examples in which it can be used. For instance, this is a picture that appeared online in 2017 showing President Obama holding a portrait of Algerian leader Hossein Ahmed. This is in 2015. Now with TEICHER, we can see the original image that dates from 2011, in which Barack Obama received stock car racing drivers at the White House to congratulate them on their performance. And we can see with TEICHER that the image have been reused many times. Here, showing President Obama endorsing Philippines President Duterte, or here, mocking his successor, President Donald Trump. Or here, we can see also that it has been a trend on social network with young people using this image as their profile account. This is almost funny, but you can see many more dangerous use, of course. Another element also is to see when images have been recycled, when they are older. This is particularly the case when physical war echoes in the digital world. In the case of the wars in Ukraine, in Syria, or the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you can see many activists from both boards who share images of destruction, images of bombing, of dead bodies. But we have found with TEICHER that many of these images are sometimes recycled from previous conflict, even from other parts of the world. In 2014, during the war in Gaza, there was a hashtag called Gaza under attack. Under this hashtag, more than 400,000 tweets were shared in 1 week. And many articles were published, such as this one from the BBC, showing that many images were recycled from as long ago as 2007. Now, if we apply a TEICHER research to the image shared by this Filipinese man, we can find the original one that is a picture of an art project in remembrance of the victims of the Katzbach Nazi concentration camp that was taken in March 2014. So that has nothing to do with the coronavirus. Now, if we look at the second image, you were more divided, like 92 people thought it was a fake news and 42 that it was a true one. Maybe, maybe not. We can see so many crazy projects in science. We can debate a lot, or we can check for the source. Now the source, it's an article from Cupertino. I've never heard about this website or this news magazine. So the first reflex that we can all have is to click on the button about that tells us about this website. And we can have information about this. And the part I highlighted in blue said that it is a satirical website specializing in fake news. We can see from this that it is a satirical website, and the title could have been a clue also, because Cupertino is the contraction of the word scoop, as in the news headline, and the name Cupertino of the city where Apple have its headquarters. Now, if the source itself says it's fake, you can stop checking right now. So this is another example. Now, the first image, as the link at the bottom on the website of the image says, this image was created on a website called Breaking News Generator. It is one of many websites that exist to create viral parodies of news online. Let me show you how it works, and you can try this at home whenever you want. Here, we are on the website. On this website, you can create your own fake news, like, I don't know if I can try GCED can cure coronavirus. I can even have the subtitles. We have the time, like a participant in this workshop likely to be more immune. And I can also download a picture. And here, in just a few seconds, I created my own fake news. Of course, it's satirical, but it can lead to more dangerous consequences. Now to go back to the, to go back to the other image. This article Now, on the bottom, I gave you the link to a fact-checking website called Infotagen, and as the link explains us, there are no serious sources that back up this information. Now, the website Natural News, when we click on their website on the part where there is written about them, we can see they present themselves as an advocacy organization led by activist turned scientist Mike Adams. Now, a quick research online, like Wikipedia, who gives its sources, describe this site as an anti-vaccination conspiracy theory and fake news website known for promoting pseudoscience and far-right extremism. The site have even been delisted and blocked from Google search. Many of its content removed from Facebook and YouTube before eventually coming back. That doesn't completely mean that the information is fake, but that means that the source is not very credible, and that if you want to verify the information provided by this site, you should check for other credible source of information and cross-references sources. And finally, this image have created a debate. Well, almost half of you thought it was true, half of you thought it was fake. Now, the answer is that it is a real news. It is a real news from the classic FM website, and it has been corroborated by many other national newspapers all around UK. Now, there are some scientific recommendations saying that we should not yell or sing too loud because it can spread the virus. And why happy birthday? Because Prime Minister Boris Johnson on live TV a few days before the beginning of school said that the duration for which you should wash your hand is the duration of the song Happy Birthday that you should sing twice. So the first element I wanted to share with you and the tools that go with it is the importance of checking the source. If the source itself say it is fake, then you can stop right now. But you must replace our first reaction, that is, it is possible, so it is true, by checking on the source. Now, what are the risks of believing this wrong information? They are not also dangerous. In this time of COVID crisis, first of all, it is important that false information about the virus can fuel the spread of the virus. This is the first element. And false information can also lead to hate, as we have seen. There are issues of privacy violation, data used against us, and the issue of conspiracy theories. Now, what is the problem with conspiracy theories? Many people will tell, be careful of this theory is dangerous, or that theory. I think that the problem does not lie in one theory in particular, but mostly in a mindset. The problem is not asking questions or thinking there is a conspiracy. The problem is when thinking that everything is conspiracy. As French politologist Pierre-André Taguieff, specialist of conspiracy theory, wrote it, to think in a conspiracist way is not to believe that conspiracy exists, because they never cease to exist, but to see plots everywhere and believe they explain everything or almost everything in the world's course. Now, conspiracy theories sometimes always have an enemy, but the enemy is sometimes hidden, sometimes explicitly clear. And when there is the systematic designation of a hidden enemy, it can have many consequences. The first consequences of fully believing that everything is conspiracy is isolation, retreating. Then not wanting to believe the media anymore, not wanting to believe the parents, the family, the schools, the government, and retreating from the world. And from then lead the fear, and from the fear to the hate, and eventually for some to the shift of radical violence. So what can be done? What can be done? Well, first of all, it is very important, as Dr. Mendoza said prior to me, to have a responsible behavior online. Now, it seems obvious to say think before sharing, clicking. Liking or sharing a post may seem something very trivial, but it can have a lot of consequences. People have been fired over a tweet. people have even been killed over a tweet. Now, I want to share with you another video of an advertisement for a phone that will help us reflect on the responsibility we endorse when we share an image online.
Sensation of the year.
This is Canoe.
Nunu the Mysterious found if a student unleashed a phenomenal hype across.
Local authorities are urgently wanting to play down.
And helicopters scouring the woodlands for the mysterious.
Scientists expect a threatening and dangerous behavior for him.
Valuable information that
Lists of a certain contact with the creature is actually
So this is one element. Sorry. Okay, so this is a video that makes us think about the importance of clicking. Now, I want to do also another exercise to help you show one consequences of clicking. The one consequences of clicking is the impact it has on the algorithm of search engine that you use, such as Google, Bing, or Baidu, depending on which one you use. Now, nobody knows precisely the secret of this algorithm. They are more secret than the recipe of Coca-Cola. But we know that it's a mix of various things. On the location you are in, and that also your history of navigation plays also an important part in it. Now, I want to share my screen with you, and I would like to ask you to open your phone and to go on Google. And for instance, if you type the same thing as me, we can compare the difference to see how the algorithm works. For instance, let's ask Google, am I going to? Now, if I begin to type a question in Google, Google will continue the question for me with the things Google thinks I like, or what the people ask the most, or what I did. And it would be interesting to compare your answer with my answer. I guess there's not always the same. Or if I ask a philosophical question like, why is? Google will ask me, why is the sky blue? Why is my computer so slow? And we all have different elements. Now, if you ask Google for more deep question or complete question, you can type, for instance, if I ask Google, what is the meaning of life? Now, what is the meaning of life? And if I press enter, type in your Google engine, what is the meaning of life? And look at the answer. You have, for my part, I have Wikipedia, I have psychology article, I have some videos, philosophical videos, I have an article of Wired magazine that I am used to read, and I have recommendation of book by the Dalai Lama or others. Now, I'm guessing you don't have the same answer as me. So you can begin to guess the consequences of having different answers to such important questions. So So one element is pointed by the many people that internet rely on suggesting always more of the same. Like when you watch a video on YouTube, for instance, you have a list of suggestions that will appear on the side. Social networks also provide often and regularly suggestions, and the consequences can be very dangerous. Now we have testimonies, for instance, of young people looking online for a purpose in life or answer about their religion, and YouTube recommended them videos that led them eventually into violent extremism. There's a comment that says that before the internet, we went to the information, and that before the internet, we went to the information, and with the internet, the information comes to us. Now, the difference is between being active and being passive. When you go buy a newspaper, you make the active choice of getting out of your house, going to the newsstand, buying this newspaper and not this one, and you know why. But with the internet, you often receive content without asking for it, without even knowing where it comes from. Now, regarding fake news and conspiracy theories, they are very difficult to argue with because they are often simplistic and powerful ideas and images. That's why we must develop upstream answers, work on the source where the image comes from, and downstream answers. What do you do with this information? And the answer is that we are often forced to rely on sources. So it is impossible to, it is important, that these sources are selected and verified. Some people say, I only believe what I see with my own eyes. Now, I believe that the Earth is round and I didn't went to space to verify it. I believe Australia exists and I've never been there. And I believe that there were kings in the Middle Ages and I've never been there to verify it. So it's important to check your sources, and when presented with a theory or new information, always ask yourself 3 questions. The first one we have talked a lot about today is what are the sources? The second one is what are the skills and expertise of the people given us this information? Are they scientists? Are they clerics? Are they witnesses of the story? Everybody now is a specialist on the internet. Specialist of what? Go look for their skills and expertise. And the last question is their intention. What is their intention? Conspiracy theory often advance hiding their intention. But when you look at the profile of the people posting them, you have a pretty much clearer intention. So to conclude this workshop, I would like to share with you some tools and get some time for a Q&A session. Now, there are TINA and Google Image that are reverse search engine that I talked to you about. There is also one website that is follow.me, that is a website to analyze a social media account. On this social media account, on this website, you can type the name of a social media account. They will give you many useful information about the account. There is also #ify.me. That is a website that will give you many information about the trend of a hashtag. When was it created, where, and how was it used? And of course, fact-checking websites are very, very important. So the purpose of this workshop was to give you information about how to deconstruct hate speech online. And the hate speech online are very, very important. Now, I know that I used some images that are racist. I used anti-Muslim images. I used anti-Asian images. I used anti-Semitic images. These are hate speech that I want to criticize and denounce with you, of course. That's why if I share my presentation, I will remove it from the presentation because the purpose, of course, of this workshop is to criticize this prejudice, to deconstruct them, and of course, not spreading it because it can lead to physical violence, and it has already led to violence against Muslim, against Asian, against Jewish people or migrant, for instance. So thank you very much for your participation. I'll leave my email address at the bottom, so I would be happy to have some feedback from you and answer your question. And we have a very brief time of Q&A right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your wonderful, wonderful presentation. And then it was very informative. And then what is such an interactivity you put on your lecture, not lecture, mini workshop, right? So wonderful. Thank you very much for your effort. And then now let's move on to the Q&A session. And then Dr. Kelly Mendoza actually cannot be with us for Q&A session, right? So, but we have Mr. TEICHER right here. So we'll take about 2 or 3 questions. I'm not sure. Depends on how much time left. So first question I got from Lorenz Lopega. As a student, are you ready to receive question, Mr. TEICHER?
Perfect.
All right, here we go. Let me read. As a student, how can you help in promoting GCED, that's a global citizenship education, through media and information literacy when situations such as threat in freedom of speech is prevalent? How do you respond to this question, please?
Now, this is a very, very important question. And unfortunately, we can see all around the world how this question of freedom of speech are different in different countries. I will say one thing, one word is the most important, is the word dialogue. It's important to encourage students to speak. Now, when we are in classes, we are not on social network, we are not in a political debate, we are only representing ourselves. And we must not forbid students to express their opinion, but we must be very, very careful of the impact on each word. And classroom must be a safe space. We must create safe space in classes to be able to have dialogue. If we don't have dialogue, we will only have a representation, a fantasy, or a label of what other people think. So I would say the answer lies in dialogue.
All right, thank you very much. And then I think we have about 5 minutes, and then our audience are super shy. So let me just ask my question. So you've been talking about mainly about the social media, etc. But what's the role of the major media in terms of this situation, actually the spreading fake news, etc. So what's the major media? What's the role of the major media? What do you think about that?
Now, media have, well, there are so many different media, they all have a different role. Now, media have, for instance, in France, a lot of media have been criticized for spreading false information. And so now more and more media developed fact-checking websites. Mm-hmm. But I would turn on the question on the student, because, for instance, we have many people saying that these media always say fake news. Mm-hmm. And when we ask about what they know of politics or the situation in their country, they say, I saw it on TV. So they take the source from where they criticize it. And they say, oh, these media always say racist things. And I always tell them, so why do you look at them? Mm-hmm. Now, media can say whatever they want, but we have a responsibility in the way we receive this information. We don't have to watch channel we don't agree with. We don't have to click on the articles online that our website wants us to click on. We have this responsibility, we have this freedom, this role of choosing our source of information and not only taking everything that is offered to us.
You mentioned in your mini workshop that you just talked about some importance of the information source. So I think that just reminded me of that the importance of the major media's responsibility, especially in this the pandemic era, right? So thank you very much for your wonderful. Just the other show. I learned a lot, actually. And then before we just finish, do you have any comments or final comments to the audience all over the world, if you have?
Yeah, well, I would say maybe 2 elements that are very important that we have expressed right now. First of all, is the responsibility. Being citizenship for me is being actor, being actor of one's life, and being actor of our life includes also being actors to our relationship to information. We don't have to receive. We can choose, we can be actor, and be careful of the fact by saying, I will not fall into this trap, because it's when you let your guard down that you fall more easily in it. So yeah, think twice and always keep dialogue. It's very important.
All right, thank you very much. Such a very impressive the workshop you just gave us. So thank you very much. And then it's time to wrap up. We thank all the presenters for their invaluable contribution, and then also thank all the audience, all of the world for your participation today. And then one thing, please promise me you will be here tomorrow as well. We have a wonderful programs as well tomorrow. So see you tomorrow, and then thank you for your participation. Bye bye.